be anyone, from total strangers to even someone you trust. Welcome back to Popular Opinion versus the Truth. I'm here with Joseph and my new co-host, the Liberty Panther. Today's topic is the normalization of pedophilia, particularly trans-age people, who are those that identify as belonging to a different age group than the real one, in the controversial French film Cuties.
First and foremost, I want to thank you again for having me on the program, Eagle, and hello, welcome to the program, Liberty Panther. People identify as different ages because they suffered through a horrible childhood and wish to live out their youth that they never had a chance to do. That is one definition for the term trans age. Trans age, the most popular story and origin, quote unquote, if you want to say, for the trans age movement was Stefan Key Walsh. I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly. But needless to say, he was a 52-year-old man from Canada who left his wife and 7 children to identify as a 6-year-old trans age girl. Trans age is a relatively new term, and it has become associated with the transgender community. When someone identifies as trans age or trans fluid identity, they identify as a person of a different age. Walsh has been transgender for 23 years, with her wife's knowledge of her sexuality. But by the time she was 46, she was finished with raising her kids and being married to her wife. Now, the trans age movement, as you can tell from what she identified as, it is more like she felt that she was a 52-year-old man trapped. She was a 6-year-old girl trapped in the body of a 52-year-old man. And while that in itself, if it were an isolated incident, can be overlooked with some questionable thoughts, the concept of the trans age it's easy to see how this can lead into the realm of pedophilia, because there are some people who, associate themselves with the trans age movement, and they're taking advantage of theirs in order to engage in pedophilia because they say, hey, I'm actually identify as a 16-year-old, so it's fine. That's not to say that all trans age people are pedophiles, but there are those who use this quote-unquote mental disability to justify their heinous acts against children and their communities.
For instance, over the past few years, a man from Chicago named Joseph Roman sexually abused and assaulted 3 young girls aged 6 to 8 who are his friend's children. Roman claimed to the authorities that he was a 9-year-old boy trapped in a man's body. Again, this is not to say that all trans age people are sexual predators, but some of them use this mental disorder as an excuse for their actions.
Hi guys, Liberty Panther here. I agree with Jay. Many of these pedophiles do use mental illness as an excuse. One thing I will say, mental illness is not an excuse for them. Pedophilia is not a sexual orientation. A lot of people have gone into the conversation, the World Wide Web, of what sexual orientation is, and the majority of the times I only hear something about either liking the same gender or different gender. Another thing I find very messed up is that some of these pedophiles are parents. So I have yet to understand how a parent can go ahead and find another child attractive. One main characteristic of someone that could be a pedophile is when they over-sexualize children. To me, parents should be a little bit more protective of their children, of the idea of them being exposed to being over-sexualized. When conversing on the topic of over-sexualizing children, I've been noticing that there is a huge trend going on with a film named Cuties. Cuties is at most a very cringy movie. However, the World Wide Web has decided to go ahead and criticize one scene in specific, and everybody knows that it is the dance scene. If you take it into the perspective of someone that used to do dance classes and dance shows at a young age, the dance scene itself is not over-sexualizing children. Again, it is at most cringy. In the world of dance, the dances to catch a person's attention, you usually do the dances that are considered in the trend. And that is what the girls are doing in the dance. They are doing moves that are considered in the trend. As for the clothing, even though it may seem suggestive, please remember they are dancing. Therefore, they need flexibility. Sometimes it should be a little bit more loose. I will agree with that. It was a little bit too suggestive for children to wear that. But again, in the perspective of someone that used to do dance, you need flexibility. Since many people are judging the fact of how these girls and cuties were dressed, I want to bring up something that has been considered popular for a while now on the internet. Everybody has most likely seen a meme that compares how 13-year-old girls used to dress up 10 years ago versus how they dress up now. It shows a huge difference on what parents are letting kids be their role model. It shows a huge difference on what it's being exposed now. And it shows a huge difference on how the perspective of children are being taken. The fact that children are being over-sexualized, I believe that yes, it is the media to blame, I'm not going to lie. But it is also the parents' blame. Parents should be more attentive. They should check who their children are taking as role models. They should check who they are hanging out with. They should check how they are dressing up. They should monitor them in their media exposure. They should check who they are leaving their children with to take care of them. And finally, parents should put rules on children to make sure that they are not being exposed to exposure of over-sexualization or that they're in the risk of being, near a pedophile. Children are innocent and they don't know the difference. That's why us adults, whether it be their parents, family members, adults in general, should be able to watch their children and be able to take care of them. There is no justification for over-sexualizing children, and there's no justification for pedophiles.
Well said. Did you know that children who are sexually abused tend to behave erratically as a side effect of their trauma? Some of these behaviors include abnormal changes in appetite, sudden mood swings, refusal to bond with others and open up about secrets shared with adults and other children, depression, anxiety, suicidal behaviors, and many more. If we want to protect and save children in the long run, then we must educate ourselves on these signs and seek professional help immediately. There are politicians who advocate for the normalization of pedophilia. For instance, Democratic California Senator Scott Wiener and Assemblywoman Susan Eggman recently introduced a bill labeled as SB 145, meant to end discrimination against the LGBT community and address sexual relations between people in close age, such as an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. However, the bill lowers the penalties against pedophilia, particularly not requiring pedophiles to register as sex offenders in the case of vaginal sex if the child is at least 14 years old and there is a 10-year or less difference between the minor and the rapist. It also gives judges the disposition to make that choice as to whether the rapist registers as a pedophile or not. And despite the bill's original good intentions, it's been modified to lessen the sanctions against pedophilia under certain conditions, making it harder to identify pedophiles. How are we supposed to keep children safe if we don't know who's a predator? After all, the point of someone registering as a sex offender is to inform the general public of their crimes for better safety. Yet these politicians are essentially making it more difficult than it needs to be. Even more children may be put at risk because of this decision.
As previously mentioned, Cuties has been under tremendous heat with its quote-unquote sexualization of young girls. Now, many people have jumped onto the bandwagon of, just assuming that it's some movie that sexualizes girls. Oh my god, these are young girls, these are made for pedophiles, blah, 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 blah. In fact, many people who have said these things, they have not even themselves seen the movie. I myself have seen the movie, and I am here to explain what it is. The movie Cuties, or Mignon in its original translation, is about a young Muslim girl named Ami who is more or less just a coming of age story, if you take it as at face value. The movie starts off with Ami. She has just moved into this new apartment with her mother and her two younger siblings. Her father is you don't see him at all for the majority of the movie. He is supposed to be out of town or something along those lines. And Ami is raised in this conservative girl, not supposed to do any of these things, whatnot. And one day she happened to be going to do the laundry, and she sees a girl, and she's dancing, and she's enamored at what she sees. Like, oh, she looks like she's having fun, and she's moving her body, and she's dancing in a way that her mom usually doesn't allow her to. Not saying that she is, she's not dancing in any particularly sensual way. She's just regularly dancing, and so she was just, okay, this is interesting. And so she, over the course of the movie, she, meets the girl. She becomes friends with the girl. This girl's part of a dance group, and they incorporate Ami into this dance group. She's not an official dancer, but she's like a friend of theirs, so she, hangs out with them while they practice. She films them, blah blah, all that good stuff. Here's where the movie takes its turn. Ami, she steals the cell phone of one of a family friend who is helping her and her mother move and getting ready for her father's new wedding, because they do believe in polygamy and all that stuff over there. But she steals his cell phone and she makes herself an Instagram account. Well, it's not Instagram, but it's an allegory for Instagram. She does that, and then she starts to film the girls, and it's like, oh, we're having fun. And then throughout the entire movie, they make a key point of pointing out how these girls are too young, or people will make fun of them, saying, oh, they're too young, and they have this, ideal. Ami specifically has this idea where she wants to be a grown-up. She doesn't want to be labeled as a child anymore and all that good stuff. And so she looks up some dance moves. She starts watching videos of adult girls doing adult dancing. So, twerking, grinding, all that good stuff, whatever, the sensual ones that we all know. So she does that, and she begins to incorporate that. She seems to take over the group. They pretty much kick out one of this other girl who was in the group, and they start to incorporate Ami in it, and she starts to make this new choreography for them and whatnot. And she starts to basically teach them to dance sensually, sexually, provocatively, all that type of way. And it's that's when the movie starts to take its quote-unquote sexualized turn. And they start doing this, and it's very, very cringy, and the movie makes a point to make it cringy, to show that no one in the movie who's watching them do this dance appreciates it. They're kind of like, okay, you're too young, you shouldn't be dancing like this, that kind of stuff. And towards the end of the movie, there's a dance competition. Ami is part of the dance competition because of the stuff that happened during the movie. She's part of the dance competition, and that is when the quote-unquote iconic scene that everyone has seen of them doing this weird, crazy-ass sexual dance, that is where that scene comes from. It's the very end. And in that scene, you can see the face of everyone there. They do not approve. So the movie makes it a point of saying, hey, this is what these girls are doing, but it is definitely not okay. And so people take that scene out of context. And so that is why I was saying to anyone who has an opinion to say about the movie, maybe you should go see the movie first before you can form an opinion. Otherwise, you look ignorant. That being said, are there some odd scenes where maybe they could have omitted that, or maybe they could have just not showed it? Yes. However, they chose to go the more extreme route in showing this is how far some girls can go, and that is definitely true. In fact, there is one scene where the Ami, she takes a picture that she definitely should not have taken, and she posted it on social media all over the place. And when her friends find out that this has happened, they kicked her out of their dance group. They kicked her out of the dance group when they saw that she was being too much, too sexual, too much. They decided to kick her out, and they went back to their original choreography, which was just a normal breakdancing type of choreography. It is only towards the end where she sabotaged the group, and they were forced to incorporate her back in, and then they did the new sexual choreography that everyone saw, and that is very, very questionable and obviously inappropriate.
I couldn't agree more, Joseph. It would have been better if they omitted the sexual choreography and rather imply that it took place. However, the film does not over-sexualize children. The points of it are to show how social media and other factors can play into children's mentalities and behaviors, and to condemn child sexualization and exploitation. Many people on social media tend to dance very suggestively, leaving a bad impression on minors. When children see these dances, they tend to think that's what it means to be grown up, when it really isn't, and they start to mimic what they see. Even some high school girls at ages such as 15 and 16 dance provocatively, and no one seems to mind. So what's the difference between a 10-year-old doing so, as opposed to a 16-year-old? The truth is there shouldn't be a difference, yet social media influences them to behave that way. Going back to what Liberty Panther said, parents and other trustworthy adults should be more attentive as to what their children are doing on social media in order to protect them and preserve their innocence, which is the point of Cuties. At the end of the film, Ami learns her lesson by realizing that she's still a child, and dancing suggestively is not a sign of maturity, and that she must preserve her innocence and grow up naturally. The world is already bad enough as it is, with strict laws against sex offenders, and now it's getting even worse thanks to the likes of Weiner and Eggman and many other factors. We must continue to protect children and each other by monitoring their activity on social media in a healthy manner, and by standing up not only to sex offenders, but also to politicians who condone pedophilia by voting them out of office. Doing so can not only have a great impact in the fight against pedophilia, but also keeps children and families safer and happier than usual. By taking a stand together, we can make a big difference, one step at a time. If you want to spread the word about the channel apart from social media and the internet, now you can, with apparel sold on teespring.com/stores/popular opinion versus the truth. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, phone cases, face masks, and many more. Each purchase allows the channel to grow, reaching and educating thousands of people. Be sure to check it out. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Popular Opinion versus the Truth, on Twitter at Opinion Versus, on Instagram at POVTT_6_2020, on Anchor.fm/POVTT, and other podcast platforms, such as Spotify, Overcast, and many more. And don't forget to open your eyes to see through the lies.